Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's TOEFL listening lesson. We are diving into a conversation task where a student visits her professor to discuss an assignment. This is a classic scenario you will encounter on the exam, so pay close attention to the student's problem and the professor's specific instructions. Let's focus on the dialogue and solve these questions together. If you want to master the TOEFL exam with ease, be sure to subscribe to my TOEFL and keep learning with us every day. So,
Excuse me, Professor. I have a quick question about the essay that's due next Monday. Man? Certainly. What is it?
I wasn't sure about the required length. The instructions say 5 pages.
Yes, that's 5 pages of text plus a separate reference page.
Okay, that clarifies things. Thank you.
what is the speaker saying here? Let's listen closely to the first part of their interaction. Excuse me, Professor. I have a quick question about the essay that's due next Monday. The student starts the conversation by identifying the reason for her visit. She says she has a quick question, which signals that she is seeking specific information. She also mentions the essay and the deadline due next Monday. In TOEFL conversations, the first sentence usually sets the stage for the main purpose question. Certainly, what is it? The professor is very cooperative and uses the word certainly to show he is ready to help. He follows up with, what is it? To prompt the student to explain her confusion. This friendly tone is typical in professor-student interactions on the test. I wasn't sure about the required length. The instructions say 5 pages. Here, the student specifies her problem. She mentions she wasn't sure about the required length. She has read the instructions, but she still needs more details. Notice how students in these tasks often seek to verify written guidelines. Yes, that's 5 pages of text, plus a separate reference page. This sentence contains a very important detail. The professor confirms the 5 pages of text, but then he uses the word plus. He adds a new requirement, a separate reference page. Always listen carefully for information that comes after words like plus or also, as they often lead to correct answers in detail questions. Okay, that clarifies things, thank you. The student ends the conversation by confirming that the explanation clarifies things. She is satisfied with the information and says, thank you. This confirms that her goal was reached. Now that we have analyzed the TOEFL, let's look at the first question. This is a purpose question, which means we need to identify the main reason why the student initiated this conversation. Why is the woman talking to the man? This question wants to know the main reason for the meeting. Focus on the keyword why. In sentence 3, the woman says she wasn't sure about the length. Then, in sentence 5, she says the professor's answer clarifies things. She needed help understanding her assignment guidelines better. A great tip for this question type is to look for the first problem the student mentions right after the greeting. Let's move on to option A, to request a later deadline. This option suggests the student wants to change the date. While she mentions the essay is due next Monday, she never asks for more time or a later deadline. She only asks about the length. Therefore, this choice is incorrect. Next, we'll examine option B, to get clarification on an assignment. This option says the woman wants clarification on her assignment. In sentence 5, she explicitly says, that clarifies things. She was confused about the length instructions and asked for a clearer explanation. This matches the dialogue perfectly, making this option correct. Now let's take a closer look at option C, to discuss her grade on an essay. This choice mentions discussing a grade. However, since the essay is due next Monday, it has not been turned in or graded yet. The student is still writing it, so there is no grade to discuss. This makes the option incorrect. Here's option D. Let's break it down. To ask about the next class topic. This option suggests she is asking about the next class topic. If we review the talk, they only discuss the essay length and references. They never mention what will be taught in the future classes. So this choice is incorrect. Here, the correct option is B, which shows that once we understand that the student was seeking help to understand her assignment instructions, identifying the correct answer becomes much more straightforward. Great job! Now let's move on to the second question. This is a detail question, so we need to look for a specific rule mentioned by the professor about the essay. What is a requirement for the essay? The question asks about a specific requirement for the paper. To find the answer, we look at sentence 4, where the professor provides the details. He mentions the page count and then adds a very specific instruction about the separate reference page. Detail questions often focus on these extra points introduced by the speaker. Now let's examine option A. It must be submitted on Monday. This option claims the submission time is a requirement. While it is due next Monday, the question asks about the requirements for the essay itself that were being clarified. The deadline is a general fact, but not the specific detail the professor emphasized to help the student's confusion. We mark this as incorrect. Let's move on to option B. It must include 5 references. This choice suggests the student needs 5 references. The professor mentioned the number 5 for the pages of text, not for the number of references. This is a common TOEFL trap where numbers are switched between categories. Thus, this choice is incorrect. Next, we'll examine option C. It must be exactly 5 pages long. This option says the essay must be exactly 5 pages. If we look at sentence 4, the professor says it is 5 pages of text plus a reference page. That means the total is actually 6 pages. Because it is not exactly 5, this option is incorrect. Let's evaluate option D together. It must have a separate reference page. This choice specifies a separate reference page. This matches sentence 4 perfectly, where the professor says, plus a separate reference page. This is the specific requirement he added to clarify the student's task. This makes the option correct. The correct answer to this question is D, since this option alone fully and clearly addresses what the professor stated as a specific requirement for the essay's format.